Hello all, welcome to AWS tutorials. My name is Kastro Kiran. In the last video, we have talked about what is meant by AWS global architecture. We have seen what are the various components that are involved in the AWS global architecture. In today's video, we are going to talk about the first service that is available in AWS, which is called as S3 service. So before moving to the S3 service, let me show you what are the topics that we are going to discuss in this particular video. So first we'll be understanding the S3 service, what is meant by S3 service, why we need to use S3 service, some basic introduction towards S3 service I'll be talking about, and then I'll be doing a couple of activities in the AWS console by creating the buckets and by deleting the buckets, how to create a bucket, how to delete a bucket, and how to upload the documents or how to upload the objects into the S3 bucket, how to download the objects from the S3 bucket into the local device. These things we are going to see. And apart from these three, I'll also be talking about what is meant by ACLs, that is access control list. So these are the topics for today's video. So what is S3? S3 is nothing but simple storage service. So by the name itself, we can see that it is something which is used to store a data. Okay, S3 is a service which is used to store the data, whatever the files or whatever the objects that we need to store, all the storage related activities will be performed in the S3 service. S3 is one of the storage services that is available in AWS cloud. Now, before talking about more details on S3 service, let me show you what are the overall topics that I am going to cover in the S3 service. So I am going to talk about a total of 18 topics in the S3 service, starting from basic introduction towards the S3 service, talking about the S3 security, versioning, object lock, replication setup. All these things will be discussed over a period of time in the S3 videos. Now, let us go back and understand the introduction towards S3 service. As I was mentioning, S3 is one of the storage services in AWS. So what does it mean by storage service? Storage is something which is used to store the files or to store the data. Suppose if you see in our laptops or in our computers, if you want to store a file, okay, if you want to store a file, we are going to create a folder and then we will store the file in that particular location. So similar concept is applicable in the S3 service itself. What is that? Let us see that. And here, let us understand how S3 will work with respect to the local device, that is our system. Suppose if you want to create a file in your local system, so what will we do? We will create a folder first. So first we are going to create a folder. The same thing we will do in the AWS cloud also. What we do in the AWS cloud is first we will go to the S3 service, and in that S3 service we will create a bucket. Okay, we will create a bucket. So in AWS cloud we call it as buckets instead of folders. In our local devices we call them as folders, but in AWS cloud we will call them as buckets. Now, once we create the folder in the local device, that is in our system, what we do, our aim is to store some files into that folder. So we are going to copy some files or we are going to paste the files into that particular folder. Similarly, in the bucket also, we are going to upload some files. But here, what we do is we don't call them as files. What we call is we will call them as objects. Okay, we will call them as objects. So in S3 service, we are going to create a bucket, and inside the bucket, we are going to upload the objects. Objects are nothing but files. It can be a image file, it can be a PDF document, it can be a Word document, it can be an Excel file. Whatever the file type it is, we are going to call them as objects. Whatever data that we are going to store in an S3 bucket, all the data we are going to call it as object. Now, in S3, as I was mentioning, first we need to create a bucket. So remember, bucket is nothing but folder. Okay, bucket is nothing but folder. But technically, as far as AWS is concerned, we are not going to call it as folders. We should call them as buckets. So let us see how many types of S3 buckets are available. So with the recent update in the AWS cloud, AWS has introduced two types of buckets. Earlier, we didn't had these two types of buckets. We used to have only one option to create a bucket. Now, AWS had come up with two types of bucket creation. The first type is called as general purpose buckets, and the second type is called as directory bucket. So general purpose buckets and directory buckets are the two types of buckets that are available in S3 service. Now, on what basis these bucket types are decided? These bucket types are decided based on storage classes that are available in AWS. So what is meant by storage class? What are the different types of storage classes? All these things we'll be seeing in the upcoming videos. But for time being, just remember that the buckets are classified based on the storage classes. And here, what is meant by a general purpose bucket? As the name itself tells, it is a general bucket. So if you want to upload an object into the S3 bucket, or if you want to download an object from the S3 bucket, all the basic related data that we are going to do in the S3 service, we will do by creating a general purpose bucket. And here, general purpose buckets supports all types of storage classes except a storage class which is called as S3 Express One Zone. This is a type of storage class. So don't bother about what is this type. I'll be talking about that in the upcoming videos. But just remember that it supports, general purpose bucket supports all types of storage classes except the S3 Express One Zone type of storage class. And this is the most commonly used type of bucket. So in the real time also, we will most commonly use the general purpose buckets in order to work in the S3 service. And the second type of bucket is called as directory bucket. So directory buckets are the buckets which supports only S3 Express One Zone storage class. It doesn't use any other types of storage classes except the S3 Express One Zone. Okay, in the last video, I was talking about the availability zones. So for any region, we will have at least two availability zones. Suppose if you are from India, in India, we have Mumbai region and Hyderabad region. So Mumbai region is divided into three availability zones. What does it mean? It means if you store a data in one availability zone, automatically in the backend of AWS, all your data will be stored in all the three availability zones. Why they are being stored in all the three availability zones? By any chance, if any availability zone gets failed, okay, if any availability zone gets failed, the data should not be lost or the user data should not be lost. So to take care of the user data, AWS in the backend will create our data in all the remaining availability zones which are available in that region. But here, directory buckets are something which will be storing the data only in one availability zone. That's called as one zone. Okay, it will be storing the data only in one availability zone. It does not store in all the three or all the availability zones which are there in that region. So that's why it is called as directory buckets. So directory buckets are the buckets which stores the data only in one zone storage class. Now, what is the advantage of this one? The advantage of this one is we can use this type of bucket, especially if our application performance is sensitive and we need single digit millisecond latencies. So whenever we need an application performance to be a top level application performance, in that case, we are going to use S3 Express One Zone, okay, which is a directory bucket. So these are the two types of buckets that are available. One is general purpose buckets and the second one is directory buckets. General purpose buckets we can create in all the storage classes except the S3 Express One Zone. But whereas directory buckets are the buckets which uses only the S3 Express One Zone storage class. And general purpose buckets are the most commonly used type of buckets in the real-time scenarios. So here, before moving on to the AWS console and do some practice work, let us see what are the points that need to be remembered. So here, there are a couple of points that need to be remembered. The first one is how many buckets can we create per AWS account? So if you have an AWS account, how many buckets can be created? So here we can create 100 AWS buckets per account. All the 100 buckets you can manage at a time. If you want to create more than 100 buckets, AWS will charge you for that. Whatever the extra buckets that you are going to create after 100 number of buckets, you have to pay for those buckets. So as far as free tier account is concerned, we can create and manage 100 buckets per AWS account. That's the first point that need to be remembered. And the second thing is how much data can be stored in free tier account of AWS. So we can store a maximum of 5 GB of data. Okay, beyond 5 GB, you will be charged. But as far as free tier account is concerned, we can store up to 5 GB of data in our S3 buckets. But remember, AWS S3 supports up to petabytes of data that you can store. Okay, not just terabytes, we can store up to petabytes of data. But if you want to store such huge quantity of data, you have to pay for AWS. But in free tier accounts, we can store up to 5 GB of data. That's the maximum limitation that we have with respect to the storage type. Now, let us go to the AWS console and let me show you how to create an S3 bucket, how to delete an S3 bucket, and how to upload a data from into the S3 bucket, and how to download the data from the S3 bucket. And I'll also show you how to work with ACLs. That's called as access control list. So here I am in the AWS console. You can see. So first, let us try to access the S3 service. So you can see the search bar here. Just click in the search bar and just type S3. So once you type S3, you can see the S3 service here, which is scalable storage in the cloud. So just click on S3 service and we will be directed to the S3 service where we are going to create a bucket and then we are going to upload the files into the S3 bucket. Right. So this is the S3 console. And here you can see the types of buckets, general purpose buckets and directory buckets. Okay, general purpose and directory buckets. So let me create the general purpose bucket. So just click on general purpose buckets and here you can see an option called create bucket. So just click on create bucket. Once you click on create bucket, it will ask you a couple of details about that. S3 is a global service where our services or our resources will not be limited to a specific region. They are available across the globe. So what does it mean? I'll show you that. So first here, select any AWS region. Let's say I'll be selecting the Mumbai region. So you can see Mumbai region, which is Asia Pacific AP-South-1. So select that. And here, the next thing is we should give the bucket name. And one thing that we need to remember when we are giving a bucket name is bucket name must be unique. Okay, it must be unique within the global namespace. Why it should be unique within the global namespace? Because S3 service is something which is globally available. S3 is not a region specific service. It is a globally available service. So when you are creating any resource which are related to globally available, the names must be unique with respect to the global namespace. That means if you suppose, let's say you are going to create a bucket as my bucket. Suppose if someone else from some other account had created a bucket, had already created a bucket with this name, then it is not possible for you to create the bucket. It is not possible. So we should ensure that the bucket names must be globally unique. Okay, the bucket names must be globally unique. So make sure of that. If your bucket name is not globally unique, then your bucket will not be created. Let me show you. So here I'll just see whether there is any bucket with this name or not. Let us try to create with a name called my bucket. So I'll just giving the name and here the object ownership. Let it be ACLs disabled only. I'll not go with ACLs enabled. We'll talk about ACLs enabled once after we work with the S3 bucket creation. Right. So let us go with the default value and block public access. Let it be this one. I'll talk about this one after some time. And bucket versioning, let it be the default cases. And scroll down, let all these be in the default cases and click on create bucket. Once you click on create bucket, now can you see, is the bucket getting created? No. What is the reason? You can see the error message here. Bucket with the same name already exists. Where it is existing, it might be existing in any one of the AWS accounts. So across the globe, we have AWS accounts which are managed by different people. So remember that whenever you are creating an S3 bucket, okay, whenever we are creating an S3 bucket, then bucket name must be globally unique. If your bucket name is not a unique name, then AWS will not allow us to create the bucket. Even if you scroll down and click on create bucket, it is telling that bucket name with the bucket with the same name already exists. So you have to work with the unique name. You can see rules for bucket naming. You can click on it and you can see the rules for that. As I said, it should be unique. So what I'll do is I'll give the bucket name as Kastro underscore. I'll give with today's date 05 Jan. And here you can see there is an invalid character. Underscores are also not available. So I'll give hyphen. So Castro hyphen 05 hyphen Jan. This is the date. Okay. So and then let me scroll down and click on create bucket. Now you can see the bucket is getting created. Why it is getting created? Because the name is unique name. Okay, the name of the bucket is unique name. You can see successfully created bucket. Now, once you create the bucket, okay, once you create this is our bucket. Okay, once we create the bucket, you can see in which region I have created the bucket, Mumbai region. Okay, you can see in Mumbai region, while creating the bucket, I have selected Mumbai. Okay, if you remember. So that's what it is showing here. And access, whatever the buckets and objects that are available, or whatever the objects that are going to be available in this bucket, they are not accessible by public. Nobody can access them. Okay, nobody can access them. So accessibility state is bucket and objects are not public. They are not public. And you can see the details of the bucket, on which date the bucket has created and at which time the bucket was created. Okay. Now, the next activity is once after we create the bucket, let me show you how to upload an object into the bucket. Okay, let me show you how to upload an object into the S3 bucket. So how will you upload? So just click on the bucket so that you will be going inside that bucket. So click on that bucket. And here you can see the objects. What are objects means? Objects means the files. So, but technically we should not call them as files. We should call them as objects as far as AWS terminology is concerned. Now, do we have any objects in our S3 bucket? In this S3 bucket, do we have any objects? No. You can see no objects. You don't have any objects in this bucket. And here also you can see 0. That means there are no objects that are available. Now, we need to upload an object into this S3 bucket. Okay, we need to upload an object into this S3 bucket. How will we do that? So in order to upload the object, you can see this option here, upload. Okay, you can see an option called upload. So just click on upload and then you select the file. Whichever file you want to upload, we have to select that file. You can see this option, add files. I'll talk about add folders in the upcoming sessions, but let us focus on add files. So click on add files and then we have to select a particular file. Okay, and then we have to select a particular file. Let's say I'll select some image file. Okay, I'll select some image file. Let me show you that this particular file I'm going to select. Some random file I have selected. Okay, so you can see red BZ architecture. This is the file that I have selected. Now remember, we have just added the file. We have not uploaded that file into the bucket. We have just added it. So if you want to upload the file into the bucket, just scroll down and here you can see an option called upload. So click on upload. Once you click on upload, then you can see the file has been uploaded or the object has been uploaded. You can see the upload succeeded and you can see the summary of uploading status. So destination, into which bucket we have uploaded this particular bucket. Where is this bucket available? It is available in S3 service. How many files we have uploaded? Only one file. So it is succeeded. What is the size of the file? 134 KB is the size of the file. So it is succeeded. So are there any files that are failed to upload? There are no files, right? So once we upload the object, okay, once we upload the object, you can see the object is available. Now, can you download this object? Okay, can we download this object? Yes, we can download. So how will you download? So just select that object. Okay, check this box. You can see a square box here. Check this box and then you can see this option called download. If you don't check the box, okay, if you don't check the object, what will happen is these options will be disabled. Only after selecting the object, the download option will become enabled. So click on download. Once you click on download, you can see the object has been downloaded. If you click on open, the object will get open. Yeah, so this is the object that I have downloaded from the S3 bucket. So first what I have done, I have created a bucket with this name, and then I have uploaded an object, and then I have downloaded the object from the S3 bucket, right? So now the next thing that we are going to do is this object, okay, is this object accessible by public? No, they are not accessible by public. But one more thing that we need to understand is the storage class. I was telling we have two types of buckets which are based on, or which are categorized based on the storage classes. And here you can see that storage class, standard storage class. This is in general. Okay, by default, this will be the storage class of any objects that we upload into the S3 bucket. But anyway, I'll show you how to upload an object into a different storage class. All these things we'll see in the upcoming session. Right. So now let us see some properties of this object. Now, if you want to see the properties of the object, you can click on the object name. Okay, you can click on the object name, and here you can see properties. And in the properties, there are two things that we need to remember here. One is for any object that we are going to upload into the S3 bucket. Okay, for any object, this is the object name. Remember that. This is the object name. For any object that we are going to upload in the S3 bucket, an object URL will get generated. Okay, an object URL will get generated. What is meant by this object URL? Object URL is nothing but if you want to access this object. Okay, if anybody wants to access this particular object, you can share this object URL. Let me show you that. So copy the object. Okay, I'm copying the object URL. So go to a new tab and then paste it and then click enter. Now, can you see what is the option that is showing? It is telling that access denied. So I don't have an access to this particular object. So where I am accessing this particular object, I am accessing outside of the AWS console. If I access the object within the AWS console, it is possible. You can see there is an option called open. Once you click on open, I am able to see. This is something which is being accessed within the S3 service. You can see. But once I am trying to access outside of the S3 service, what it is showing outside of the AWS cloud, not just the S3 service, outside of the AWS cloud, I am unable to access this one. Why? It is the problem of ACLs, that is access control list. Now I am able to access the object within the S3, within the AWS cloud. But once when I come out of the AWS cloud and once when I try to access the object, it is displaying a message like access denied. Now, how to ensure to access the objects outside of the S3 bucket? Okay, how to ensure to access the objects outside of the S3 bucket? Let me show you that. I'll keep this tab as it is. So even if I reload, it is telling me that access denied. Right. How will we ensure the public access of a bucket? That's called as generating public URL for a bucket or making an object public. I want to make this object public. Anybody, if I share this object URL to anyone, they should be able to access. Right. Let me do that part. So in order to make any object public, first go to the object. Okay, go to the object, whatever you have you have uploaded. First, we need to go to the bucket and then open the object. And once you do that, you can see an option called permissions. Okay, there is an option called permission. So click on permissions, and here you can see access control list. Now, is this object is being accessed by outsiders? No, nobody can access. You can see everyone public access. Is there a public access here? No, there are two hyphens here, which means public access is not available. Now, how to make sure this object should be publicly available? Okay, how to ensure this object is publicly available? So for that, what we have to do is go to the bucket, and in the bucket, you select the object. Okay, in the bucket, select the object, and here you can see an option called actions. Okay, you can see an option called actions. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see this option called make public using ACL. Okay, make public using ACL. But here, this option is disabled. Okay, this option is disabled. So how to enable this option? So in order to enable this option, go to permissions. Okay, open the bucket, go to permissions tab. In the permissions tab, here we have to allow. Now, what is this option? Block all public access. What does it mean? It means whoever is trying to access my object publicly, block it. Don't try to give them the access. That's what it means. On means we are going to block all the public access. Now we have to turn off this one. Okay, we have to turn off this one. How to turn off? So just click on edit. So first open the bucket, go to permissions. In the permissions, you can see edit option for block public access. Currently, the public access is on. That means nobody can access outside this AWS cloud. Now I want to access this object outside of the AWS cloud. How to do that? So click on edit. In the edit, you can see this checkbox, uncheck this one. If you uncheck, what does it means is it will be available for public. Let me uncheck this one and scroll down and then click on save changes. Click on save changes and it is asking me to confirm the changes. So just click on type confirm and then click on confirm. Right. So we have saved the changes. Now you can see bucket. Now you can see here block all public access is off. Now can we access this object? Can we access this object that is uploaded? Let me go to objects and this object, can we access outside of the AWS cloud? Let me go here and let me reload the page. Now you can see if still I am reloading the page, I am not able to access the file. Why? Okay, there is one more option that we need to enable. What is that? So select the object. Okay, select the object, go to actions. In the actions, scroll down and here you can see make public using ACL. Now, have we enabled the ACLs option? No, we haven't enabled. So we have to enable the ACL option as well. That is access control list. How to enable the ACLs option? So let me go to the object. Okay, let me go to the object and in the object, go to permissions and here you can see access control list. So currently it is not enabled. So we have to enable it. How will you enable? So you can see this option called bucket owner enforced. So click on bucket owner enforced. So when I was creating the bucket, I have selected this option, ACLs disabled. Now we need to enable them. So click on ACLs enabled. Okay, click on ACLs enabled, scroll down and then click on save changes. So here it is asking to acknowledge. Just check this box as well. Click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, now let me go to this page and reload. Still, we are not able to see. Why? We have just enabled the access control. We have not given the full permission. Now, what is the third permission that we have to give? Just go to the bucket, select the object, go to actions, scroll down, and now you can see this option has got enabled. Make public using ACL. This option was not enabled earlier. Now, I have disabled the ACLs so that this option has got enabled here. So click on that. Okay, click on that, scroll down and then click on make public. Once you click on make public, what will happen? You can see successfully edited public access. Okay, successfully edited public access. So just click on close and here, if we go to this particular tab and if you reload this page, now can you see the object? So this is the object that we have uploaded. Where I am trying to access this object, I am accessing this object outside of the AWS cloud. Okay, outside of the AWS cloud. So that's how you can access the objects into the S3 buckets outside of the AWS cloud. So what are the three permissions that we need to give? The first thing is we need to enable the ACLs. And the second thing is we need to turn off the block all public access. And then the third thing is we need to ensure make public using ACL enabled option. So this is about how to work with the ACL. Now let me show you how to delete a bucket and how to delete an object. So first let us try to delete a bucket. So in order to delete the bucket, you can see this option, which is delete option. Currently it is disabled. So in order to enable that, we have to select the bucket and then click on delete. Here, one more thing that we need to remember is we cannot delete multiple buckets at a time. Suppose if I want to delete both the buckets at a time, it is not possible. AWS does not allow that. So AWS allows to delete the bucket only one bucket at a time. So select the bucket, click on delete. Now you can see there is a problem with this. You can see what is the problem? The problem is this bucket is not empty. So before you want to delete a bucket, buckets must be empty. Okay, before they can be deleted, you should empty the bucket. What does it mean? It means you should delete all the objects, whatever that are available in that bucket, before you try to attempt the deletion of bucket. So let me show you that. So first we need to delete the objects, select all the objects. So currently in my AWS bucket, I have only one object. If you have multiple objects, select all of them and then click on delete. Remember, once you delete an object, there is no way of getting back. And then confirm that permanently delete. So just type permanently delete here. I'm just copy and pasting it here and then click on delete objects. So you can see successfully deleted object. Now if you click on close, you don't see any object. You can see objects count as 0 again. Now we can delete the bucket. Just go to buckets console and then select the bucket, click on delete bucket. And then you should give the bucket name here. Just copy this bucket name and provide the bucket name and click on delete bucket. Once you click on delete bucket, you can see successfully deleted the bucket. Now are we able to see the bucket here? No, the bucket has got deleted now. So that's how you can work with the S3 bucket. In the next video, I'll be talking about a couple of advanced options in the S3 service. Thank you.